you essentially have a system that operates as if a person is sitting in the wheelchair, but it can navigate itself along these guidelines and then be able to localize itself based on the QR codes that it reads.
Professor Kofi Nyarko is the director of Morgan's Center for Equitable Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning Systems, and one of the principal investigators of this automated wheelchair project.
We began by taking your run-of-the-mill standard wheelchair that is powered. We then put some logic and control that fits in this box right here that is able to replicate the functionality of the joystick and essentially fool the wheelchair into thinking that is being controlled manually by the joystick.
And artificial intelligence is essential to the success of this project.
Where AI comes into play is when we get into doing things like collision avoidance, when we get to doing things like mapping their environment without the guidelines. That's when it gets very complicated, and you need AI to be able to take all that information, process it in a way, make it simple for the controller, and then just boil it down to just basic actions that it needs to be able to do.
The prototypes are being tested at BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport, and Dr. Mansoura Jahani, another of the project's principal investigators, says this will go beyond just getting around the airport.
One part of the work was to make the wheelchair being autonomous, and the other one was to connect it to cars. So that's another part that we are working on. How we can connect an autonomous wheelchair with a car or with an autonomous vehicle.
Professor Jahani says artificial intelligence and automated vehicles are not just for those who can afford them.
Always our perspective has been, if we don't pay attention from the beginning to these new technologies, these technologies can increase the gap between people who can afford it and people who really need it. So that's what we are working on more on. Let's use these technologies equitably.
In another lab on Morgan's campus, they're studying bias in AI systems, which use voice and written communication.
Bias in conversational AI can manifest in a lot of different ways. You think about when you're using a chatbot for text, or when you're using a voice-activated conversational interface, such as Siri or Alexa or Google. And if those systems have bias in their training data sets, then the kind of information you get out when you are talking to them can be skewed and inaccurate.
Among those helping with the research, Morgan undergrad Michael Adeleke.
AI is going to eventually, be integrated into a lot of things that we use every day. So just making sure that people know the right way to use it, like having a set of guidelines is what I think would be needed for AI to be used appropriately. Making sure that everybody who creates any type of AI, they adhere to those standards.
And Gabriella Waters says humans very much have a role to play in an AI world.
AI should not be able to replace humans, and we need to look more carefully at how we can bring the two together so that when you team a human and an AI together, the AI helps to push the human abilities further than it could alone, and the human pushes the AI abilities further than it would be able to achieve on its own. That's an effective synergy between humans and artificial intelligence that we should strive for.
At Morgan State University, I'm Sue Copen for State Circle.